Hey YouTube, welcome to Retroversy. With the new 3DS getting virtual console support with the Super Nintendo, I wanted to take a look at one of the games on there. While it is out in Europe already, you guys in the US still have to wait a bit for it. But I thought we could take a look at it anyway. That game is... Nowadays, Earthbound is mostly known for that weirdo kid with a big head in Super Smash Bros. No, not that one. This one. Nah, for real, it's this guy, Ness, the hero of Earthbound. If you're an avid Smash player, you might also know Lucas from Mother 3. That's actually our first little tidbit right here. The Earthbound series is known as Mother in Japan, whereas Mother 3 is the third one in the series. The name comes from how the director of the game, Shigesato Itoi, got so moved by the song Mother by John Lennon. He then wanted to make a game that moved others in the same way. And what we got was this. This is the game we're looking at today. Mother 1. Or Earthbound 0 if you will. Or even Earthbound Beginnings. Or, you know, just Earthbound. Jeez, there really are a lot of names for this game. Anyway, this first video will be dedicated to Mother 1, and then we will take a look at Mother 2, and then finally a little brief look at Mother 3 later down the line. As I mentioned earlier, the game wasn't localized until summer 2015, but it originally came out in Japan in 1989. That's 26 years ago. So, how does it hold up? Let's take a look. This game takes place in the United States of America. No, really. It says it right there. Right there. Yeah, you see it? Yeah, good. Through the power of early Nintendo exposition screens, we learn that a couple in the 1900s vanished. George and Maria. 2 years later, George returns out of nowhere without Maria, and he then secludes himself working on something. 80 years later, we meet our protagonist, Ninten, a 12-year-old boy from the city of Podunk. And in true Pokemon fashion, you leave home to go on an adventure. Instead of 8 badges, you would rather collect 8 melodies. These melodies are rather interesting because you can listen to them as your story progresses. It's actually just 8 parts of one melody, but it becomes really interesting because you can listen to how far you've gotten in the game by listening to the melodies. After each one you collect, you will add another part to the whole melody. Your adventure takes you all over America, and after a while, you will learn about an alien plot to take over the world, led by an alien named... oh god. Greg? I don't know. I'm just gonna call him Geeg. Along the way, you'll make friends like Lloyd, a wimpy elementary school student, and believe me, they drive the point home that he is wimpy. You also meet Anna, a powerful psychic user, and Teddy, a cute, cuddly... oh god. Never mind, I take it back. He's a hardened gang leader looking to avenge his late parents. The story is filled with charming and quirky moments that will really make you appreciate these guys, and really make you believe that they are indeed friends. I won't spoil too much of the story, but I will say this. My expectations for the story were actually set pretty low, considering it was on the NES. Or, well, I suppose the Famicom, since it came out in Japan first, if we're being technical about it. But they actually did much more with it than I thought they would. Turns out you're George and Maria's grandchild, and learning about what happened to them becomes a really interesting part of the game. As a story, it actually kept me really invested all the way through, and I got genuinely interested in what would happen to the characters, which is always a good thing. Without going into too much detail about the story, I can easily tell you that it's still worth it to this day. But that's story. How about sound? Well, it turns out that the soundtrack for Mother 1 is actually brilliant. The songs are really iconic and memorable. and I found myself humming along with them as well. Heck, I sometimes even use them to study. Another really cool thing that they did with the soundtrack of this game was that they released a 10-track CD, with a lot of the songs not only being orchestrated but also sung by a choir. It's actually really good, and I recommend you go check it out. Links are in the description. Besides, if you're a Smash player, you might already know most of these songs as they were the ones being used instead of the Earthbound songs. All in all, aside from it being 8-bit chiptunes, I would say the music has aged beautifully. Graphically, the game might be lacking a little bit. When you're in battle, the game looks nice enough with big sprites for enemies, but on the overworld, it's just you and your friends and some really primitive sprites, I'd have to say. It's by no means an ugly game. I mean, you can see it for yourself in action, but it does leave some things to be desired. Even so, I still find the graphical style to be quite charming, if not a little bit simplistic. And all that's really left right now is to talk about the gameplay. It is an early JRPG through and through. PSI is a stand-in for magic, and you get different status effects, you land critical hits, and so on, as per usual. But there is something undeniably soulful about it. Ninten has asthma, and you may say to yourself that, oh, so what, he has asthma. But, to be honest, it actually made me connect with him much more. You don't usually feel bad for a character in an RPG when they suffer from a status condition, but asthma? That's a very common illness that a lot of people have, myself included. It made it so much easier to connect to Ninten and believe that he was a real person. In fact, I really respect his entire journey. And I also admire his bravery. In fact, when I'm in different situations, I often find myself asking myself, what would Ninten do? See what I did there? Jokes aside, the game is also just plain funny, with, for example, hippies lowering your stats in battle by saying your mom was calling for you, and, surprise surprise, you believed it. The only real gripe I have with this game is the fact that it's really grindy. This is because whenever you get a new character, they always start in level 1, with the brief exception of Teddy. This means that whenever you make a new friend that joins your party, you have to spend at least an hour grinding them to get them up to speed with the other characters, or else they'll just die in one hit. All in all, the gameplay hasn't really aged that well because of all the grinding, and I really understand if it turns some people away from this game. Considering it's a JRPG with random battles, this sometimes happens. Ugh, come on. I just want to progress, come on. That being said, I would recommend this game for everyone who actually likes a good story and wants to play a charming JRPG from way back when. It is by no means necessary to have played this game in order to understand the games that came afterwards in the series, so if you want to skip it and read a story synopsis instead, you can easily do that. That being said, personally, I found a lot of enjoyment in this old school RPG. The story, the characters, the music, the graphics, everything was super charming, with the only part that has aged rather poorly being the gameplay. My personal recommendation is to pick up the game and play it, enjoy it. Maybe use a walkthrough for the maps of the areas because they can be really big and really confusing every now and then, but for the most part, this is a game that shows just what the Famicom was all about. And it also marks the beginning of a really iconic series that never really did well in the West. To me, Earthbound Beginnings holds up wonderfully. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching my first real video. I mean, I do have this other video right here. It's with Journey, but it's old and I don't really want you to see that, so don't take a look at that.